Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first of what we hope will be a short seminar series that we're going to try to do weekly for you. If you don't, if you're not wearing these masks, you should. So get on these things pretty quick. For those of you who haven't used Zoom before, you might want to go in to the upper right-hand corner and switch from the gallery view, which is little placards of everybody, to more of a speaker view so that you can get Mr. Oxendine. The way we're going to work this is there is also a chat feature, which I see some of you are already using to say hello to everybody. In order, I don't think Tony's going to keep the chat view up. So if you'd like to have, if you have a question, switch that chat view from everyone to me. My name is Ted Lazat, and I'll collect some questions for Tony, and we'll kind of just see what's the most popular questions towards the end. Tony's going to attempt to talk for 30 minutes about something other than himself. We're going to see if that actually works. And I'm going to mute myself and give you over to the man, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tony Oxendine. Here we go.
Oh, what a way to start a Saturday, huh, guys? Anyway, this is really odd. I'm sitting in my sunroom at the house, and I can't see anybody. So I'm talking to a computer screen and a glass and a bottle of water. Anyway, I have notes here that I want to get out of the way first. I'm going to thank you to start with for joining our little Corona Learning Assistant Seminar Series. Big thanks to Jeremy Butler for starting this thing off. It was his idea initially. And to Ted Lazat for taking it over and getting the Zoom set up. I've got a bunch of topics we're going to talk about tonight. Today we're going to talk about showmanship. Let's see, and we have social connection coming up in the next weeks. We have social connections with Mike Seastrom, music and singing calls with Wade Driver, marketing with Ken Ritusi, site resolution with Jack Platties, modules with Jack Platties, creative choreography with Ted. That's the only word I could think of for you, Ted. And we have some others. If you guys would like a topic that we don't have here, drop us a chat, drop us a note, and we'll see if we can find somebody that can talk about it. Anyway, my topic today is showmanship. And I've done this thing, I had this whole thing of pages of stuff here that I've done it so many times. And I've always kind of had the same little routine I did. And I talk about musical showmanship, choreographical showmanship, theatrical showmanship. And I got to thinking, today's time, it's different now. And so I'm going to approach it a little bit differently. I'm going to go back and forth between these notes and some others, but I want to approach this thing. We're going to be starting over essentially here in the next few months, hopefully. So I want to address this for all of us that, and I'm in this group now because I'm starting a club in Charlotte. All of us guys that work for clubs, how you can make a showmanship apply for clubs. And I'm going to interchange the word showmanship with entertainment, because that's what we're actually doing. Even though this topic is showmanship, I want to make the topic entertainment. Because what happens a lot of times is when we talk about showmanship, and I've seen guys that do this panel, it becomes a series of show-offmanship. And I'm not going to try to show off. I'm not going to do any wild singing calls. We're not going to get crazy with choreography. I want to talk about stuff that you're going to be exposed to on a day-to-day basis with your clubs. And that's entertainment and it's showmanship. I was looking up, because in my original showmanship presentation, the first thing I said was, it was accredited to P.T. Barnum, and it said the difference between showmanship, a showman and an artist, is an artist makes the difficult appear easy, and a showman makes the easy appear difficult. And I've always started off with that, but I'm going to change that this time, because what I would like to do, I want you to think of the number one rule for this whole panel here is be true to yourself. And in other words, be yourself. So another quote from P.T. Barnum from the movie The Greatest Showman actually it's no one ever made a difference by being like everyone else. So my first, if I can only stress one thing to you, be different from the people around you, so that your people come, when your people come to hear you, they hear something different. We've spent the last 30 or 40 years becoming really, really proficient callers. And we've become very, very talented over the last few years. Some of the choreography I see callers use now, and it's amazing the things that we can do with people. what we've lost is the art of entertainment. And we haven't learned anything because our groups are smaller now than they were 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago. But we keep doing it the same way. And I think part of that, and I'm guilty as the rest of them, as the rest of us, we've lost the part about making it fun for the people, entertaining them. And that's why people come to square dancing. They come to lessons. They come to your lessons not to learn to square dance. They come to your lessons to have something to do for 2 hours, to be entertained for 2 hours. Our job is to entertain them. Now, in the course of entertaining them, if we can teach them a little bit about square dancing, that's a benefit. But our primary job, more so than teaching them how to square dance, our primary job is to ensure that they have a good time. We want to ensure that when they leave that dance or your class or your club, when they leave at night, that they feel better than when they came in. That should be your goal as a caller. Because if the people have fun, if they enjoy themselves, they'll come back. And if they don't enjoy themselves, if they're not having fun, they're not going to come back and they're going to go do something else. They're going to be bowling, whatever else they do. And most of this is common sense if you think about it. And so I'm going to take this entertainment value and I'm going to interchange some words. I'm going to use entertainment. I'm going to use showman. The primary thing I want to talk to you guys about is selling yourself. You're going to sell yourself. You're going to sell your choreography. You're going to sell your music, your singing calls. But before you can sell anything, you got to sell yourself. So this showmanship thing, this entertainment thing we're talking about, it starts before the dance. It starts at home. You got to prepare for it. You got to get mentally prepared for it. Best time to do it is in your car. I practice all of my singing calls in the car. And I used to put them on CDs and listen to them in the car. And now my car doesn't have a CD player, so I have to put them on an MP3 player, which is good. MP3 on the stick. This way, though, I can get hundreds and hundreds of songs on a stick, and that's where I practice. This is where you want to practice. Get warmed up a little bit on your way to the dance. Be sure when you come to the dance, and this is your club now, your class. I'm not talking about big festivals because most of us aren't doing big festivals anymore. We're doing clubs and small groups. And so anyway, always remember, try to get there a little early so that you can be there to talk to the people when they come in. Because what you want to do, if people like you personally, you have a much better chance of them liking you as a caller. If they don't like you personally, chances are, no matter how good you are, they're not going to come back to you. I can give you examples. I have friends that have done things that have made people mad, and they won't, even though these guys are great callers, they won't come dance to them again. There's people that don't like me that won't come dance to me because they don't like me personally. I try not to, but that's the way of the world sometimes. Good example. Let me give an example. There's a dance in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Happens every November. It's called the Turkey Strut, and they do something that is just so cool. The couple that runs this, Jerry and Judy Biggerstaff, actually Judy Biggerstaff, that run it. They have their club members on the dance prior to the dance each night, Friday night and Saturday night. They have a greeting line of I don't know, 10 or 15 people on each side. Everybody that comes in that door gets a handshake, a hug, and they're spoken to as they come into the room. And it starts the dance off. People come in there and it starts off there in a great mood when they get there. Because they had somebody welcome them. Think of your dance as being at home. Welcome somebody in your home. If somebody comes in your house, you open the door for them, you greet them, you thank them for coming, offer them something to drink, you try to entertain them. You watch TV, you play cards, whatever you do. But think of your dance as inviting people into your home. So if you're going to invite people in your home, you got to be there. So you want to be there before the dance starts. So you want to get to the dance early enough to set your sound up, so that's all done before the people start coming in, ideally. And that way you can talk to people when they come in. Works good. For me, I try to get to the dance 30 minutes early. And that way, once the sound set up, I can talk to people. What I like to do, though, is what I do at a dance, when I finish a tip, if you ever notice, let me preface, if you ever notice that people, when they sit on the sides between tips, they always go back to the same spot for some reason. If they're not round dancing, when they go sit in the same spot every time. So what I try to do is at the end of a tip, I start like on the left side of the hall, and I go around and I speak to people, and I work around the hall. And then if I get midway around the east wall, I stop, I go back to another tip. At the end of the next tip, I start where I quit, and I go by. I introduce I talk to people, say hi, thank them for coming, introduce myself. A lot of times people don't know who you are, so I try to make an effort to tell guys, hey, I'm Tony. Thanks for coming. I try to talk to every swinging person in the room during a dance. Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you have people that do the rounds, and you may not get to speak to them, or maybe you have a crowd big enough that you don't have time. You can't get around to everybody. It'd be nice to have that problem. But you want to be friendly, and you want to be approachable. I have some friends that are just great callers that people have come up to me and they say, God, I don't like this guy. He's cocky. He's standoffish. And actually he's shy, he or she, because they don't get out. He's not comfortable speaking to people away from the mic. You take a mic away from people and from all of us, and there's a world of difference talking to people with a microphone in your hand, without a microphone in your hand. This thing right here is a good buffer between people, and we get used to that, and then we get uncomfortable when we try to talk one-on-one. So be aware of that. Now I go to page 2. Since this is a new routine, I have to have notes. Remember when we're on the stage, when you talk to people and you're relating to people, the people in the back of the hall are as important as the people in the front of the hall. We get so acclimated to calling to this front square, and this is the only square we look at. And consequently, sometimes when we're interacting with people, we only interact with this people right in front of us because these are the only people we know. So be aware that the people in the back, they paid their money the same way. And you want to be friendly. You want to get away to everybody. I like to get to the front of the stage. Ted picks at me sometimes because when I'm doing particular singing calls, I kind of work and I get my feet off the edge of the stage. But I try to get too close to the dancers. I stand on the edge of the stage. It just makes me feel like there's not a buffer between me and the people. And I find that because I am not, there are callers that are real, people just like him immediately. I come across sometimes like a smart aleck, and so I have to be very, very careful that people understand my humor. Sometimes my humor comes across as maybe caustic, and so I have to be careful. There are other times I can give you examples. It doesn't matter how good of a caller you are. I have a friend, dear friend, passed away several years ago, but he and his wife were just a great couple. People came to him to dance, and he wasn't that good of a caller. He was okay, but he pulled the biggest crowds in the area because people liked him and his wife. He was always in the middle of the people. He was dancing. He was round dancing with his wife. He was out in the middle of the hall talking to people. People liked him. They came to his dances because they liked him, and we could learn something from that. I always try to introduce myself at the beginning of the dance. Now, you may not have to do this at your club. People already know you. Introduce yourself to the people that you don't know. If they come in, if they're visitors, be sure you know them. Flippo, if you guys remember Marcia Flippo, who passed away last year before last, probably, arguably, was the most famous caller that has ever walked the face of the earth. He was amazing. At reading badges from 50 yards away. He could spot a badge and read it and come up to you, and he knew your name when he came up to you. Shook your hand, kissed the women. Bob Byer, on the other hand, from Houston, Texas, has a phenomenal memory. He remembers people from years ago. I can't remember names. Bob remembers name, and he would speak to people. He would use their name as he spoke to them. That's important. That's one of the reasons people are going to like you. People like to be recognized. Use their name. I find that if I talk to somebody, if I use their name in the introductions, if I use their name several times in the course of our initial conversation, I have a lot easier time remembering that person's name throughout the night, so that I can come back later on, and when I thank them for coming, or so, I'm able to use their name. Let's see. When you set up your stage, here's the thing. When I told you earlier that we use this little microphone as a buffer, be sure when I set my stage up, I always put my equipment on the side. I never put the equipment in the front, because when you put the equipment in the front, then it's like a wall between you and the dancers. The dancers don't get to see you because you've got this table in front of you. It also makes it a lot easier for us to sit back and put this computer screen in front of us and look more at the computer screen than we look at the people. Nothing wrong with reading material. I've seen too often. I've seen round dance leaders. I've seen callers with sometimes stuff right in front of their face, reading their material, or they're looking at reading their the choreography they have on their computer. Put it on the side if you have to angle it so that you can read. If you need to read, nothing wrong in reading, as long as you do it correctly. But put it on the side so that way you have the people. There's nothing in front of you and the people. Doing that, you have to be aware of some other things. Especially some of this sounds crazy, but people notice this stuff. You know, I'm not saying that you have to wear square dance clothes. I'm saying that you have to look neat. We have to look neat and relatively professional. Some things you want to worry about, especially the men, you want to be sure, number one, that your socks match. Nothing looks weirder than to see a caller with blue pants, brown socks. Years ago, at the Cincinnati National Convention, back a bunch of years ago, when I was younger and I wore boots, I wasn't paying attention. I had these beautiful I had several pairs. I went to Mexico and I bought them. And I had these beautiful lizard boots. I had some brown ones. I had some blue ones. I had some black ones. And I went to the national. It was at the national convention doing a trail-in dance. And I looked down and I had on the most beautiful lizard boots. My right shoe was black. My left boot was brown. I had on complete mismatched boots. It was funny. I was embarrassed. Be aware of that. People see that because especially if you're standing on a stage, oftentimes they see you at foot level or waist level sometimes. So you want to be sure about that. Another thing you want to be careful of when we're doing our clubs. Let's say you have clubs that dance on the odd weeks every second Monday or second, fourth Monday. And then you have another club that dances the second and fourth Tuesday, regardless of what the nights. If with me, for instance, I'm terrible about dressing. I like khakis. I like navy blue and black. That's what I wear. I find I can match anything with khaki. I don't have to worry about colors. Pretty much anything matches with the navy blue and everything matches with black. You can wear anything. You want to be careful. If I wear my black pants and my light blue shirt this Monday, and then I have clubs that dance throughout the week, and then the next week, and I don't wear the same black pants, blue shirt, 2 weeks from now, I have the same club that I had 2 weeks ago. And I thought, well, I come to get my closet. I said, well, I haven't worn these black pants and blue shirt in a while. I'll wear this. So I'll wear the same outfit 2 weeks from now that I wore 2 weeks ago. Well, to me, it's an outfit that I haven't had on for a while. But to the dancers there, they think, well, does this guy have only one outfit? Last time I saw him 2 weeks ago, he had the same outfit on. Be aware of that. You want to keep track of that. I watched, there was he may be here. He may be in the gallery somewhere. I don't know, but a good friend of mine, an American caller, lived in Germany for a long time, Al Stevens. He's now living in Alabama. But I was looking at Al Stevens' briefcase. We were doing a dance in Germany, and I saw his briefcase, and I noticed he had a pad. And in this note, in this pad it had not only the records he used for each club, because Al was a very popular caller in Germany, and he had a lot of clubs that he called for in Germany. Not only did he have what outfit he wore each particular night, or he had the music he used, the singing calls, the pattern, and like I say, he also had the clothes that he wore, so he didn't repeat the same outfit. That is such a cool idea. Now, maybe it may be a little anal for some, but for him it worked, and it's, to me, that is such a cool idea, and in that way he didn't repeat anything. So be aware of that. People, if you only see people once every 2 weeks, you want to be sure they never see you look the same. Let's see. We've covered before the dance and somewhat during the dance where you meet the people. After the dance, be sure that at the end of the dance, that you thank the people from the stage. You want to thank a lot of people. You want to thank everybody for coming. If it's your club night, be sure you thank the visitors. Don't forget the visitors, but also be sure you thank the club members, because those are the guys that come back, they bring the refreshments, and they come early and clean the hall. They stay late and clean the hall. Be sure you thank these guys. If you have any callers in attendance, be sure you thank these guys. Always thank the people that came. If you notice, a lot of times clubs, they'll have like a little line at the end of the dance where they shake your hand. Be sure you come off the stage if you have a stage. I've seen some callers stand up on the stage and they're reaching down, shaking hands, and that kind of gives this big me, little you kind of thing. So I always try to get down on the floor with the people. Now, what I do, I don't just stand there, shake hands, wait for them to come to me. I like going around and working down the down the line. So I'm coming to them as well. So, and I try to thank them. I try to quick look at their badge. I try to do all the things I said at the beginning. I try to do a quick look at their badge so I can say, hey, Don, thanks for coming. If it's one of the club members, if I'm doing a special dance and it's one of the club, and I can see that it's a club, the club that hired me, I always thank them in the club. I say, hey, thank you guys for coming. Listen, appreciate the club having me, yada, yada. And do that. And now, remember in the beginning, I said, be true to yourself. When you talk to people this way, you have got to be sincere. I've seen so many guys come back and their persona, they come across as they're saying thank you with their voice, but they're not saying thank you with their actions, with their eyes, and with their mouth. Be sure you got a smile on your face, and that your thanks are sincere when you tell these people. And don't wait on them to come around to you. I like walking around until I get to them. If I were to mention to you, when we think of great entertainers and great show people, there's names that quickly come to mind. There's the Stories, there's the Bowers, there's the Drivers, and we think of these great, these bigger than life characters. And so, let me give you some showmen and entertainers, to change the word, that some people would not necessarily think of being a great entertainer. Let me give you my first example is Lee Cotman. He passed away a couple of years ago. If you don't know Lee Cotman, if you never met him, you missed out on just a wonderful man. He wrote so many of the calls that we use today. He was such a prolific writer and a choreographer. He was just famous for his advanced and challenge choreography. And he was one of the original famous guys back before there were some of the guys now. These, they all kind of walked in his footprints after he kind of paved the way for everybody. I can remember Lee Cotman coming into the national convention. He would do each year, back when the convention was big. Lee always did an intro to advance on Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and the hall was always full. And Lee was a very little short man. He wasn't a big stout. He was just a little short man, balding at the top, quiet, very quiet man. Walked up to the stage, never said, need a couple, never said anything, walked up the stage, put the needle on the record, because we used records then, and immediately started calling. And so you either had your square going or you had to watch. And that was kind of his shtick. But people knew that, and they just crowded the hall to dance this man. He could not sing. He couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. His choreography, his showmanship, his entertainment value was his choreography. And he sold that better than perhaps anybody that's since. That was his shtick. Another great showman that you and I don't know if you guys know John Jones from Texas. John is a big old tall Texan, and he's got this big howdy attitude. Walks into the hall, and he's always dressed to the nines. And he presents this persona from the stage. He's this huge Texan, deep voice, bass voice, and he's not going to stand up, jump up and down, and the four boys promenade and scream and holler. He doesn't do that, but he sells himself. Another great showman for you guys from Europe, from Germany especially, but if you've been around a while, dear friend of mine passed away several years ago. His name was Kenny Reese. Kenny was an American that moved and lived in Germany and spoke German with a Texas accent. Kenny was a tremendously well-rounded caller. Could sing. He had choreography, but he sold this Texas persona, and he always came across. You always knew he was from Texas. Very, very popular caller. Probably the best showman of all time or the best entertainer of all time that was not a showman was Marshall Flippo. And like I say, arguably Flippo is and in my opinion, at least, I think Flippo's probably the finest caller that we've ever had. And all of us who call full time now, we owe a great deal to Flippo, because he paved the way. He toured from years ago. And dear man passed away a couple of years ago, and just, he had the biggest selling square dance record of all time. You can put this on we'll talk about it at the end if anybody wants to guess what the #1 selling square dance record of all time. And to my knowledge, and I've always heard this, whether it's true or not, I don't know. I tend to believe it is. I've heard that his is the only this particular record that Flippo recorded is the only million seller in square dancing. I've heard there were actually two, and I heard there was Flippo's tune that we'll let you guess, and when we do the questions, maybe you can tell me if you know what it is. The other was Summer Sounds that I heard. So anyway, but Flippo, he was a little short guy, and again, bigger than life. He walked up to the stage. He was known for calling smooth choreography. He didn't do wow singing calls. He had just a strong Texas accent, and everybody loved him. And so they flocked to his dances. Flippo did the exact same tour for 40 years. He called for the same clubs on the same night for 40 years, and always had huge crowds. But we don't think of him as a showman, perhaps. But he was such an entertainer, and we'll miss him. I spoke to Flippo when he was working the parks down in Tucson. He would call me on Tuesdays a lot of times because he had a Tuesday morning plus DVD group, and he would call me wanting material, and he would take him forever to write it down. Anyway, I digress. The other part is we work before the dance, during the dance. The other thing is, what about after the dance when we have after parties? That too, we're still on the stage. We're on the show. After the dance, if you go out to have coffee, or you go to someone's house, or you go, sometimes we had big parties afterwards. You go to some areas, still Japan, for instance. After the dance, the get together with the food and the band and the beer, and after the dance, that's as big a part of the dance as the dance. And you've got to know how to act and be there. Oftentimes they expect you to kind of be the star of the show, but you've got to also be prepared to give up that star to some of the other people. You don't want to take over the thing, but you want to know, you want to learn how to operate in this environment. Sometimes you may want to, you're going to be telling jokes, you're going to be doing skits. Some of the funniest skits I've ever seen, or for some of the callers that have retired now. Jerry Haig, if you guys remember Jerry Haig on Chaparral Records, did some of the funniest skits that I have ever seen. Flippo was another, had huge funny skits. Ken Bauer and Gary Shoemaker, all of these guys, back in the day, that was part of the dance. You had a dance, and then after the dance, you had after parties, and you had to do skits. And these guys, and we've gotten away from that for some reason. And I'm not so sure that that's a good thing. Maybe these guys had huge crowds back then. We don't have huge crowds now. They did after parties and did fun things afterwards. We don't. Maybe I'm just saying. But you want to be part of the show, of the party. You want to go there. You want to be there. You want to be careful. Don't be careful with your jokes. Don't be risque. There's several things you don't ever want to talk about in a crowd. Politics and religion. You keep that to yourself. I know I have friends that do not. They wear their politics on their sleeve, or they wear their religion on their sleeve, and you can easily offend people who feel different from you, who may otherwise like you. So you want to be real careful. My political views differ from a lot of my friends. We agree not to talk politics. And especially at a party, I'm not, because you never know. I remember years ago, I have a dear friend, some round dance cuers I think were probably the finest round dance cuers. Barbara and Jerry Pierce from Birmingham, Alabama they're dear friends of mine, and they were just tremendous cuers. And I really just in the course of sitting around after the dance one night, having a couple of beers, and I said something that just really, and I didn't mean to, but it offended these people because their religious views were different than mine, and it just caused such a big rift in our friendship for a while. And we straightened things out. So you want to be very, very careful. I've seen situations where people have actually canceled going to events because they didn't care for someone's political views. So be careful when you say things. Be careful, especially in social media. You want to be very, very careful. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine a few years ago, and we have to be very careful when we say something on Facebook or Twitter. We have to be careful because people tend to think because we have microphones and we have a name that's maybe well known, that we know more than anybody, and we say something as the truth. And it's all we're saying is, we're saying our opinion. And I say that you want to be careful, because when you get to a certain point in your recognition wise, you got to be careful how you throw your points out. So be careful in your social media. I don't care about your political views. Don't want to hear it. Don't care about your religion views. Don't want to hear it. I don't want, don't send me stuff, especially Facebook. I have no idea why some of the callers do what they do when they post. Anyway, that's another. Anyway, have you noticed that I've been talking now for 30 minutes and I haven't discussed anything about mechanics? It's all been aesthetic, and mechanics are important. And by mechanics, I mean what we sing, what music we use. That's important. I don't think it's the most important. I think what we've been talking about beforehand, getting to people to like you and working the crowd. A lot of us call it working the hall when we go around and talk to people. That's the most important thing we can do. The other stuff is fluff. It comes later. There's going to be other lessons coming down the pike where they get into in-depth on singing calls. Wade's going to do that. We're going to get in-depth on choreography, and I think Ted's going to handle that. I want to just bounce around for a couple of things. So as far as choreography, I'm never, ever going to be known as a choreographer. Never in my life. I can sing a little bit. The trick is knowing what to sing and what kind of choreography to use. I've spent the better part of my career sharing the stage with arguably just the best caller in the world. I've spent since 1980. Jerry Story and I we've been hooked together at the hip. And if you guys don't know Jerry, he is absolutely amazing with a microphone in his hand. And I've had to work with him all these years, and that's hard when you got a guy that's that talented. And his choreography started where mine left off. So I have to learn how to sell my choreography. I have to give stuff. And so I'm not real smart. So I have to pick choreography that I can sell. And you would be smart to take if you're teaching something, make it fun. There's nothing more boring than just, yeah. Give me an example. And here again, this stuff kind of works for me. May not work for you. Let me give an example. I spend a great deal of time when I teach, especially workshops. Hang on, I want to drink some water. I always stress that in order to be a good dancer, that you must learn three things. You must learn how to trade, run, and circulate. And so that's what I teach: different types of trades, different types of runs, different types of circulates. One of the calls that does not get a lot of work, because we do swing through boys run all the time. What we don't do is cross runs. And so, but you can make that hard, but the trick is to make it fun. And if you can make it fun, you got to do something that you can fix immediately. In other words, what I mean, if something starts off kind of weird, or if you're going to do a call that you don't do normally, then be sure that you fix it very quickly. So if it starts off weird, make it normal as quick as you can. I like doing little routines. Write this down, get your checkers, and look at this. This is, and like I say, this is nothing more than what I would use as one of my theme tips if I'm working at a dance. And I try to have a theme. I have a theme every tip. I tell callers when I do caller schools, I theme every tip every time, and that works for me. I think it would work for most anybody. It keeps you from being so boring. But let's say from a corner box, for box 1-4, 0 box, whatever technology you use, head square through 4, that corner box. Try this little routine, and I'm going to do cross run. This is just a cute little routine, and it's swing through, which puts the boys in the middle of the wave, which is what we call a half wave. Girls are on the end. Have the girls cross run so they go to the far center. Now that feels weird. Then make it normal. Girls run. Now they're normal again. Bend the line. And it's cool, slide through, and it's a cool 0. You're right back where you started from. The dancers feel like they've done something. So, and the way I sell it is the first time I do it, I say swing through, girls cross run, far center, boys let them in. Then say girls run, bend the line. Do that a couple of times. So you don't get so boring. For those of you guys who've been to caller school, you can invert and rotate by moving around the set, start through, pass through, bend the line, start through. You're back at another station. You can do the exact same thing. You get to the point to make, now here's where you sell it, is then after they get comfortable doing that, I do swing through, girls cross run and bend the line. And you do that with proper timing, and it's just, and it feels like an in and out. It's like a ring around the rosy kind of thing, and it is just so smooth. Now that being said, a whole evening of that is bored. So what you want to do, there's a thing called symmetry in square dancing. If you do it one way, right-handed, or if you do it for the boys, if you can do it for the girls, do it for the boys, and it's a left-handed. So what you want to do now is set the same corner box up. But this time you want to have a left hand free. So you don't want to say head square through 4 because that gives you a right hand free. Try this, head star through and square through 3. Now you have a left hand free. Do the exact same routine. Left swing through. Now that puts the boys on the end. Have the boys cross run, the boys run, bend the line, slide through, and you're right back where you started from again. Once again, when you get them going good, you do the left swing through. The first time I do it, I say left swing through, boys cross run, girls let them in, boys run, bend the line. Timing is not perfect there, but they get the feel for it. I move them around the set with that invert and rotate thing we talked about. Star through, pass through, bend the line, star through, or slide through. Once they feel comfortable with that, then I do have the corner box, left swing through, boys cross run and bend the line and slide through. And then it would be cool if you have a nice get out at that routine. And now part of selling your dance is you got to have you got to have get outs. We forget about get outs. Get outs are very important. If you look upon the tip, and I'm a very visual learner. If you look upon your whole tip as a meal, the bow to the partner thing, 4 ladies chain or Alamo style, yada yada yada. That's kind of like the salad. That's the appetizer. You get to the guts. That's your meat of the thing. That's your steak and potatoes. But your dessert, the dessert is the get out. So you need to have, and there's nothing more boring than a great routine, and your get out is slide through, Alamo and left. Spend the time to come up with some neat get outs. There's all, if you like software, if you guys have never used SD, which is a free download, Bill Ackerman, I think Bill Ackerman wrote it. Great for helping you come up with get outs. But that's really important. Now, and singing calls, to me, again, visually, the singing call is the dessert of the tip. A lot of callers now, I think we should take the singing call and it should reflect the tip. If you got something you worked in if you got whatever your theme was for the patter, use that in, if you can, use that in the singing call so that you can sell that part. And so that's why this cross run is so cool, because it is a great singing call figure. Head square through 4, do-si-do, swing through, girl cross run, girl run, bend the line, slide through, corner swing, promenade. It's a cool figure. Same thing works for the boys. Just do it left-handed. I'm guilty, as a lot of record producers are, and I think here lately we've gotten worse about this. We tend to want to do just our stuff. Just our music. And I've gone to dances and I've seen callers do nothing but their label. The problem with that, and we producers don't want to say this, but I can tell you that a lot of times I can tell a particular label, you can play the first 10 bars of the song. I can tell you what label it is, because there's the certain style that everybody has. I know that I have. And so you want to be careful. You want to have different music. Here again, visually, I like ice cream. I like vanilla ice cream. I wouldn't want vanilla ice cream every meal. I'd want a little different. So we want to use different music, use different genres. I don't like country music. However, and I don't know many country songs. However, my clientele, some of these guys, I go down to Texas, I got to have some country songs. So you want to have different genres. You want to use different labels. There's just a wealth. I'm so tickled. This now in 2020, we have the best square dance music that has ever existed. And there are so many labels out there coming up with such neat ideas. Some of the relatively new producers, Shauna Carey from Chic Records has some of the most unique music choices and arrangements, and some of her stuff is just so cool. I do a lot of it, and it's the same with all of it. go back and listen to some of the new tunes. Admittedly, it costs you money, guys, but you got to have new music each week. You've got to have it. Practice. I practice in the car, and the reason I like practicing in the car because if I practice in where I'm at right now in the sunroom that I'm in, it's big and it resonates, and I sound a lot fuller now in this room than I would if I were outside. And so then I'm thinking if I based the way I did a tune on the way I hear things in here, it's going to be totally different. When I do it in the car, there are no resonators. You know, we hear things differently than the people that hear it when it comes out the speaker, because we have these resonators in our nasal cavities and everything. So we sound a lot fuller. So be careful that you don't get so tied up listening to yourself that the dancers don't enjoy it, because sometimes we think we sound a whole lot better than we actually do. Here's the thing about most of us think we think we sound a lot better than we actually do. So what to do if you don't think you can sing? Now, and like I said, I told you earlier, I'm not going to do any wow singing calls. I want to take a song, and I'm going to do a song, and I'm not going to sing it. I'm going to play it for you, and I'm going to tell you the routine that I use. And I can tell you now that I stole this routine from John Jones, oh gosh, 35 years ago. I stole this routine. I've kind of refined it to fit me, but I do a singing call that I don't sing. So you don't need if you've got good music, you don't need to have a good voice. You know, and I can tell you, as pretty as we think we sound, there's not a single solitary caller that's ever going to sound as good as some of those instruments that we have on the flip side of that. Here's a song, this is an old song. This song was recorded in the 70s, in the early 70s, I think, on Silver Sounds initially, on TNT, I'm sorry, initially, I think it's on Silver Sounds now. But it's one called Music Box Dancer. It was an old 70s tune. It was an instrumental. To my knowledge, there are no words to it. However, when they recorded this thing, they put some words to it. There are no words to it. So I try to sell it, and I do a routine for it. I said, okay, now guys, listen, here's the deal. We get away from dancing to the music so much. So I'm going to take a song now. I'm not going to sing. I'm just going to give you the words. And the goal is we're going to dance this thing to the beat of the music. And it's going to grand square, take all 32 beats, so that at the end of the song, we all finish on the exact same ending beat, that the entire dance, everybody ends at the exact same time. Now, here's the thing about this. Every song we do ends on the exact same time. They don't know this. They're not aware of this. So when they do wind up at the end of the dance, when they swing on the last beat, they think it is a huge deal when it's not. So, but I'm going to play a little bit of the song, and I take a figure, and I don't change the figure. I use the same figure every time. And then as the dance progresses, I use less and less words. So the figure that I use for the song is head square through, right hand star, left hand star to the center, back to the outsides, touch a quarter, scoot back, corner swing, and promenade. And the first time, and then I use a grand square with a lady's chain. So I'm going to play this thing, and I'm going to go through the routine just a couple times so that you can get a feel for it, because the music is different. And this is 70s music, and it's synthesized. There's not a lot of instruments, but you don't have to have a lot of instruments to have really good music. So this is an old song. It's called Music Box Dancer, and it goes like this. And this is the way I do it. Side space, grand square, they go. I have to be sure to tell them when it's halfway done, because they do it too quick. So I tell them, reverse it now. They do the next 16. When I get to here, 4 ladies chain across. Let the music play. Chain them back. All promenade. I don't say anything else. I let them go. Here's the figure, and I tell them, you got to learn this. Head square through to 4. Notice I gave them the first beat of the phrase. Right hand star, full turn. Head star left, full turn. Touch a quarter. Scoot back. Corner swing. Promenade. And they go. Now, the next time through, I tell them, guys, I really like this part. I tell them, I want to hear the difference in the music. Here's the music. Head square through. Notice the different music. Right hand star, I don't say heads. Left-hand star in the center. Touch a quarter. Scoot back. Corner swing. You know the rest. Now they know the promenade. Come back. Now here I'm coming into number 4. This is the middle break. All right, guys. 32 beats. Take your time. Side space, grand square, go. Again, I'm going to have to tell them when it's halfway done. Reverse it now. Go. Now they're going to get this last 16. Here's the part you got to remember now. Ladies chain across and back. The first time, remember, I did ladies chain, and then I said ladies chain back. All promenade. Say nothing else. Now here's the part, guys. It's going to get a little more complicated for you. Side square through, go. Right hand star. Left hand star. Touch a quarter. Scoot back. Now this time, you know the rest. I let them do think of their own with swing and promenade. So I'm coming up for the last time through. Now this is the part I tell them, you're going to really like this music. 2 and 4 square through. Stars. Stars. Touches. Scoots, you know the rest. I let them figure out the swing and promenade. Then I tell them, they're promenading. I tell them, okay, now guys, here's your chance. Everybody's got it perfect. We're going to end this thing on the very last beat. Get ready. Side space, grand square, go. Now I don't tell them when it's halfway done. Ladies chain across and back. You should know the rest. I know it means they have to promenade. Then I tell them, guys, this is going to be close. It's going to be really close. They're promenading. Swing. And they think they've done something absolutely unbelievable. Now, what I've done is I sold that tune. Now that I couldn't sing it. There are no words for this thing that I know. So, but I try to sell it. So it's cool, and they think it's just cooler than anything. They got through something, and it came out cool. That's I think now it's TNT 0211. If you guys want the number on it, it's an old Silver Sound song from. I mean, I got the TNT version. it's an old TNT version, new Silver Sounds version. Anyway, I want to wrap up with this. We'll do some questions with this closing thing that again I stole from P.T. Barnum, and P.T. Barnum said that the noblest art is that of making others happy. And he also said, compliments fade fairly fast. Insults injure infinitely. They're never forgotten and very rarely forgiven. Hope you enjoyed the panel. I'm open for questions. If you guys have questions, we'll let Ted handle it from here. And thank you guys for participating.
Hey, all right. You can hear the thunderous applause across the entire world. So thank you to everybody. We had a peak here of about 70 with some people coming in and out. Kate Wilson was asking, how do you keep the energy alive with a small group, whether that's the club group that you have every week, or say you go somewhere and you're expecting 12, 15 squares, but you get your 3, and what do you do?
That's what makes you a professional, because and there's no way to tell you how to do that. You have to strive to do that. I try to give 100%. I try to give 110%, whether it's 1 square, whether it's 5 squares. Let me give you a great example. We have a square dance resort in Maggie Valley, Pride RV Resort, and we have square dance weeks there. A big crowd for us, a full house for us is 4 or 5 squares. And I try to treat that thing, those 4 or 5 squares, like it's the Saturday night of the Bakersfield Festival. Ted has been. We do a week there in May. Well, I don't guess we'll be doing it this year.
Not this year.
but yeah, that's what they expect. Now they don't expect you to come up your club dance. You're not going to be expected to come up and do these wow singing calls every week and do these long introductions of things, but they do expect you to be involved. So I guess, try, for lack of a better word, be involved with it. Give it your all.
All right, good. Mark Francis was asking, when you're thanking the callers, do you tend to do it individually by name? Because sometimes you don't know them all. You're in a different area.
No, I don't use, unless there's only one or two callers. I don't use names for callers because I may forget somebody, and there may be a caller out there that is a beginning caller, and you don't know it. And then if you forget one person, all you got to do is forget one person, and you've offended the group. So I try not to do things that are going to offend. So I thank the callers in general.
All right, cool. That was it. A lot of people, I get a lot of thank yous. I don't know if you can see the chat on your side. So again,
yeah, I can see the chat. Yeah,
we appreciate it. And remember that next week is going to be Mike Seekstrom coming at us from California.
It's going to be a good one.
I'm going to talk a little bit about sociability. It'll be the same time. We're trying to keep this kind of radio style, guys. We're going to try to keep the same time every week, same day of the week. So, you can tune in and plan accordingly, and we'll try to keep these going as long as we're all stuck in where we're at. The last question, I guess I got, Tony, before we sign you off, is you owe everybody, what's the most popular singing call of all time? I only have one guess on that came across.
It would be The Auctioneer by Marshall Flippo.
Oh, very good. And that one guess was correct. I'm trying to see who guessed it and sent it to me. Hold on, I got to scroll. Congratulations to Phil, who said Auctioneer. He was the only one that guessed and sent it my way. So nice job. So again, everybody, we appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. Thanks to Jeremy for getting this ball rolling. It's a little bit of extra work for us on our side, but we're happy to try to give you something. You got sociability coming your way next week. We're going to look at program and calls and getting how to work them and work them into your program and your dances and so forth. And we'll try to rotate the topics so we're not always either talking choreography or always talking about showmanship and everything. But you just had the best in the business talking showmanship now. Please stay safe out there. Wear your masks.
Hey, guys, thank you for everything.
Have a good night, everybody.